You can now watch Core TV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to Core TV Primetime Days.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click Core TV, leave a space, then News. Core TV News, a 24-hour news station.
Welcome back to the 2015 election studio, where we bring you up to date with developments coming from the field. Of course, we have reports coming from the Supreme Court in Abuja now as regards the petition against the results of the June 21 election. Our correspondent Basil is standing by. Hello, Basil. What's the update from the Supreme Court in Abuja at this hour?
Yes, the update now is that Supreme Court affirmed the election that brought ADEBIYI as the authentic governor of the state. You know, you can remember APC went to court to challenge the election after Fayemi congratulated ADEBIYI. But the Supreme Court today dismissed the appeal on the ground that the impeachment on which APC rely on was not carried out by a court of competent courts. So on that, the Supreme Court said that they have been like Mary. Yes.
It's all right. So what's the situation around the premise of the Supreme Court where the judgment was given?
Yes, the situation there now is that everywhere is calm, although probably the Fayose camp, they knew that maybe they won the case. So there was no much supporters around
the premises of the court.
Premises, yes. The premises of the court was visually empty. But when we interviewed the APC lawyer, he described the judgment as a landmark judgment. Also, the APC lawyer also said that the court wouldn't have, although he agreed that the court did a powerful, good job by dismissing the appeal, but on the other hand, he said that he did impeach on when he was on his first tenure, that he wouldn't have been not allowed to recontest the election.
It's all right.
Yes.
We'll be back with you. Thank you very much for that update, Basi, from Abuja. Of course, it's breaking right now that the Supreme Court has struck out the APC's petition against the election of Governor Ayodele Fayose in Ekiti State. You also recall that the PDP won 25 out of about 26 seats of the State House of Assembly in a just concluded gubernatorial and House of Assembly election that occurred last week Saturday in Ekiti State. We also have other updates coming in from Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, where Oyo Accord party members and supporters gather at the party office in Samonda in Ibadan to protest the outcome of the governorship election. The aggrieved supporters took time to rain all forms of curse words and violent statements against the incumbent governor. Of course, from what we've gathered, it's obvious that the angry crowd are waiting for an order from their court governorship candidate to give an order permitting them to follow suit with the protest on the streets of Ibadan. So, all right, we'll also keep you up to date. We'll be joined very shortly also by our correspondent in that part of the country to find out what the situation really is. Now, let's turn our attention to the involvement and the role of the youth in the just concluded elections and the expectations, really, of young Nigerians on the incoming administration, even as a new wave of political formation seems to have swept the length and breadth of Nigeria as a country. I'm joined now by public affairs analyst CHIDIBOMI. Adebiyi rather. Thank you very much for finding time to join us today.
Thanks so much.
What are your observations and opinions as regards the just concluded elections, bearing in mind the pockets of violence that greeted some parts of the country? There were issues of ballot box snatching. Some people even lost their lives in some quarters.
Yes, we thank God that the elections have come and they've gone. And personally, I want to congratulate all Nigerians because there have been all sorts of negative prophecies for Nigeria with respect to 2015, with respect to the elections. But at the end of the day, we were able to come together, unite, and move ahead and sustain democracy. That's very key. Then another thing is, even though we have pockets of violence in some states, I think it's still a pass mark, and those issues about violence were expected before the elections, because there were 3 flashpoints before the elections at all: Lagos, Kaduna, and Rivers. So Lagos relatively was able to, defy that
The expectation of violence.
expectation of violence. Then Kaduna was also, so because in those 2 states, even when we had a case of opposition winning in one and the incumbent party winning in the other, there have been congratulatory messages from the losers.
That's right.
So the only challenge that that was left was the issue of Rivers, because we know that Rivers, being like a stronghold for the PDP, apart from that being very close to the outgoing president's domain, then being the state where the outgoing president's wife comes from. So it's we expected that, because it has been coming. The violence had never left them. So, but we just pray that everybody can embrace this peace that every other part of the country is enjoying. Then constitutionally and democratically, just go to redress the situation in the various and appropriate courts. So then, before I conclude on that, I also want to use the
Just a minute. Just a minute. Let me quickly take this from our correspondent in Oyo State. Omotayalo, can you tell us what the situation really is now with the Accord Party supporters in Ibadan? Hello, Omotayo, are you there? Omotayo, can you quickly intimate us with the situation of things with the Accord Party supporters in Ibadan?
Yes, sir.
Omotayo, are you there? I'm afraid we have to get back to our correspondent, who is live in Samonda in Ibadan, where reports just gotten that there are hundreds of Accord Party supporters who are getting set for a protest against the result of the Saturday's gubernatorial election in that part of the country. Please go ahead with your contribution.
So, as I was saying, I should have started with this, because today marks 1 year that the Chibok girls were abducted. We still have hope. We're still condoling and commiserating with the families, and we still pray and believe that they will be alive and they will be rescued back to their different parents and homes. So we should just also use the opportunity individually and collectively as a nation to remember them and pray for their safe return.
Yeah, at the same time, there's also a remembrance of the victims of the Yaya bomb blast in Abuja. But do you think, as a Nigerian youth, that we've been able to consolidate enough on these very, very seemingly unfortunate experiences to forge ahead and wage a war against terrorism in Nigeria?
I think we're trying. The success is not going to come in a day, because these issues and this crisis was something alien to us. We didn't have them as part of our normal lives. They just came in within the last
Just a
decade.
minute. Omotayo is back online. Omotayo, can you tell us what the situation of things really are now in Ibadan?
I beg your pardon, could you repeat your question?
What is the situation of the protest that you reported in Samonda in Ibadan?
Okay, well, right now, the supporters and members of our court are gathered in front of the party secretariat in Samonda, and we've had some party leaders address them. Presently addressing the people now is the governorship candidate of our court, and what the people are saying is that they are both feeding cows at the just concluded election, accusing the INEC, the Resident Electoral Commission, of conniving with incumbent governors to rig the election. And for them, they are saying they would not accept the results of the election until a rerun is done, because for them, Ladoja is the winner of the governorship election.
What exactly is the position of the Accord Party gubernatorial candidate as regards these protests?
Well, what he has said so far is more appeasing the people for them to calm down, saying that he would not desert them at this critical period. But of course, he has said he's going to go to the tribunal. But beyond going to the tribunal, what the supporters want is to show their displeasure on the streets of Ibadan. But right now, I think I am just calming them down, not to take those into their hands. But from what I've seen so far, these supporters are angry, so angry that it would only take the grace of God to calm them down and move them away from taking laws into their hands.
Well, we understand that the Labour Party candidate, Alawa Akala, has already congratulated the winner of the election in Oyo State. Can you confirm if the Accord Party also followed suit?
No, he didn't congratulate him. He hasn't congratulated the governor yet. Because, in fact, when the result was announced, the party agent didn't sign the outcome of the governorship results. So, of the 5 major candidates that contested the election, Accord is the only party that hasn't congratulated the governor, because for them, the result is incorrect and it was rigged to the favor of the incumbent governor.
It's alright. We'll be back with you, Omotayo, when you have more updates for us. Omotayo is reporting from Samonda in Ibadan, where members and supporters of the Accord Party candidate are presently gathered at the premises of the Accord Party Secretariat, getting set for some protest. The report says that the Accord Party gubernatorial candidate, former governor of Oyo State, Rashid Ladoja, is presently addressing the supporters, telling them to be calm and law-abiding, and promising them that would not desert them, as well as following suit in reclaiming what he calls his mandate via the tribunal. Back in our studio, we keep talking about the conduct of the electorate in the face of situations like this before and aftermath the election. What role precisely do you see the stakeholders, for instance, the candidate in question, play in all of this?
Yes, the candidate in question, or the candidates, have to make sure that all the peace accords signed are adhered to
Okay.
100%. It is very, very important, because even when you have felt cheated, there is no way you are going to have a government in a situation of chaos or crisis. So if you don't appeal to your supporters, if they go on the streets, if they create a situation of crisis, it doesn't help your cause. It's even going to prolong or extend the time frame or the timing by which your mandate can be given back to you.
That's
So I think, based on our experiences in Nigeria, in Edo, in Anambra, we've seen that the courts can really do the job when the onus lies on them to do it.
So let's also now begin to look at the role of the youth thus far. How would you assess the contribution of the Nigerian youth in the just concluded, many have described as history-making electoral process in the country?
Yes, the youths were very, very. I think the efforts put together was wonderful, and because if you are very, very active on social media, on all the platforms on the social media, you will discover the engagement of the youth, the way the youth engage themselves, somewhat offensive, fine, but it was like a debate on its own, and both the front runners, the two parties, also engaged the youth in that, because we had a debate between two females, one for APC, one for PDP. I watched it live, and you could see the level of discussions. You could see the issue, and you could really find out and discover that the youths are now very, very engaged and involved. They showed that they knew about what they were talking about, be it economic policies, political scenarios and all that. They were able to discuss very well and intelligently on it. So, and on all other platforms too, the youths really engaged themselves. They tried to convince themselves, and there was so many, what do I call it, swaying of, emotions and all that, which was realized by the youth.
But let's look at the active involvement, so to speak, of the Nigerian youth participating in elective positions, just like we saw. For instance, the change that Nigerians clamored for in the Buhari or Shimbajo ticket wasn't really that quite youthful. We're seeing a president that's about 74 years old, and then the vice president also already has some gray hair on him. How long more do we have to wait to see that youthful participation? For instance, in some pockets across the country, we saw some young folks also got elective offices. For instance, this actor won an House of Assembly election in Lagos. Desmond Elliott looks quite youthful. But how long more do you see us involving more young politicians in elective positions in Nigeria?
I think the first thing we have to look at and consider is the fact that everything will be a gradual process.
I see.
And I think the change was not about the youth. The change was more about the situation of the country.
Okay.
Because if it was about the youth, then I think the outgoing president should have remained.
That's right.
Yeah. And I think we had a lot of youth in the cabinet as well. So I think the change slogan and the change party really wanted a kind of rescue mission which Nigerians subscribed to.
Okay.
So that side, we had pockets like even in Ekiti State House of Assembly elections, many of them were youths that got elected. In Lagos, we had pockets of youths too elected, like this one Elliott, and some other people that are not really, popular with names like that. Then in some other states, we had youths. Then for the first time, we had a major contender that's a woman.
That's right.
And it's still inconclusive as at this time. So it's about gaining on what we have achieved so far. I believe we can from there take it now to the youth. And like in a game of football, it's not a total overhaul.
Okay.
You need experience and vigor. So in a situation whereby we now have people with experience, people that are coming to rescue us from the rot we found ourselves over the years, then they cannot bring the youth along. And I want to really tell, because I am very, very I was involved a bit, and I know that there were a team of under 30s that really worked with the Buhari and Shimbajo. They really worked with them. They felt the pulse of the youth, and they really helped in in conveying the vision of those people on the ticket to the youth. I am aware of that, and because this is not a platform to really publicize anybody, but there is and or there was
and
a
you're
team
hopeful that there will be an integration
integration
of
because
those young people in this incoming
yes,
administration.
because they helped in the let me call them let me say that they are part of the visionaries. So, and you don't just put everything on the table then call outsiders. So these people started with them, from the media people to the brand consultants. They were there with them, and if you follow Buhari very well, maybe on Facebook, on Instagram, on other platforms, you always see a face
That's right.
that is even very popular in Lagos, that is maybe in his early 30s, or I'm not really sure about it, but maybe early 30s, or even 30 or below 30. So those are the kind of things that it's practicable, because you show them the road. They come with their own mentality. They come with their own ideas. Then you tell them that I have been there for the past 40, 50 years. This is how we've been doing it. And they tell you, General, this is how we can communicate to these people. So it's like an interwoven thing, and they can all, work hand in hand and achieve the success.
Let's look at the manifesto of the APC and how it relates to Nigerian youth. They talk about giving certain some sort of financial reward on a monthly basis to unemployed Nigerians, especially via the NYSC scheme. After the NYSC, if you haven't gotten a job yet, they talked about engaging you financially and some sort of things. So do you what role really, what expectation do you think the Nigerian youth have of this administration in the light of the very grave system of unemployment, or grave situation of unemployment that we are at in Nigeria?
Yes, this is also very, very important. It's not just about helping the people, that's welfare. It happens everywhere. I'm going to be very, very skeptical about the approach. We've been saying, some of us have been saying, we are going to monitor this government, because it's not just about the welfare, it's not just about the policies, it's about how you go about the policies. Now, I think where the problem could be in that kind of policies, implementation. How do you, before you turn it to a party thing, how do you identify these people? How do you pull them out? In Nigeria, we still have, like what operated in Ekiti, we have people that were in employment, but that were still going to collect the money. So how do you make sure that you are able to separate all this, and you are able to get the real people that need this thing? But what I see that will help the government is the fact that they have not limited it to those people that are unemployed. They are starting from the grassroots. Now, if you are giving every child in the primary or secondary school a meal per day, and you afford them free education, you make sure that you get free education available to them. And like in Lagos State, they've been paying their fees, WAEC and NECO fees and all that, and you make sure that all these things are done. You give them uniforms. Now, we won't have a situation whereby kids that are supposed to be in school are on the streets, cleaning windscreens and begging for money. That is empowerment from the cradle. That's very, very important. Another thing is the technical education that they want to bring into play. Now, even if because I read a write-up by somebody, and where we got it wrong was the fact that, okay, if you fail maybe JAM, those are the people that were going into technical schools. I think that was wrong. So from the beginning, we made the technical education inferior to maybe the university or
the academic
sector. So now what we're looking at is they are bringing this technical education into play. Then even when you if you have been able to go through primary, secondary, then you have this technical experience, then I don't think we'll have a lot of unemployment in the land
situation in Nigeria.
Yes.
Another attention will also be on security. Many people have talked about the fact that this administration, the incoming administration, campaigned on certain issues. One of it was insecurity in northeast Nigeria, and how exactly can they make Nigeria safer. Of course, today there is a commemoration of 365 days after the abduction of the Chibok girls. But let's begin to look at the involvement of young Nigerians in providing some sort of communal, security, state policing. Do you see this at any time as an avenue of actively engaging young Nigerians at such a time like this?
Yes, I see that as an opportunity to engage us as well, because when you get the right values into our minds as youth, then when you now entrust us with responsibility, then I don't think we will fail. Now, but when you don't get the right values to us, it's been a practice of values.
That's right.
So, and I think the Northeast is not going to be an area of focus in this new administration. I don't think so. I think all credit to, or let's just give the due credit to President Goodluck Jonathan. Started very late, but we can say within 6-7 weeks what we have been able to achieve. Now, because I've been asking myself some questions that, okay, if insurgents, terrorists come to a village and they overpower the security apparatus in that village, what happens to the hair? Like what happened in Lagos, the robbery in Lekki? I think if we had a functional police with area capabilities, they wouldn't have been able to succeed. But even at the time they got on water, if those people could have followed on air, that would have been a major ordeal for them. So I think in the Northeast, everything is just going down and it's going to end. It will take time because you have to work on mindset, you have to work on ideologies, but that will just go down and die. But I think we should focus on the South.
Okay.
Now they have, I think, with the kind of electioneering going on in the South, people are they are getting access to arms once more, and not just about militancy or oil issues now, but about kidnap, about real crimes. So I think the government, any government in those areas, have to work better than they've been working.
That's all right.
Because if anything happens, if there are crises in that region, Nigeria will though suffer from it, but the major impact will be made on the people in that area. So the governors have to be on their toes. They should sit tight and make sure that those things are redressed. After the elections, I don't know how they are going to mop up those harms, but that's very important.
Well, we need to wrap up now, but one of my favorite questions these days is how long should Nigerians give the incoming administration before they start kicking, especially on major issues like security, like unemployment? Power is there, and several other daunting challenges.
Realistically, I think before we can see any remarkable improvement, will 12 months, 18 months will have gone. Because don't let us forget the fact that they're still going to work with a budget of this outgoing government. So, and apart from that fact, is so many things that they always say Rome was not built in a day. It takes years to build things, but it takes just moments to collapse or destroy those things. So the first thing they are working on, I think they are more of not even infrastructures now, institutions. We have to build institutions. We have to, then those institutions communicate their values to the people. Like I was watching the real story of Nigeria. It's on YouTube, and somebody, myself and my wife mentioned that even when he came in as a military officer, the things from their first broadcast, what they were talking about were not major things. They were minute things. All due diligence, orders of the day queue, you must not jump queues, you must not throw deaths on the street. You know, those were the things. I don't know if anybody has watched it, but those are the things they were talking about that day. But those little things, you know, added up to become to give us the transformation. Then war against indiscipline and
the structures.
Yes, so the institutions they are going to build are going to communicate their values. And even now, people are saying that this value is really coming up, because there have been tensions in some places that and the business as usual is not the thing anymore.
I say. Thank you very much for finding time to join us. I've been speaking with CHIDIBOMI, ADEBIYI, a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for finding time to come today. So, right, let's also quickly just take a look at some of the developing stories. Of course, the Supreme Court has dismissed the appeal brought by the APC against the June 21 governorship election in AKT. And, of course, PDP members in that part of the country are also getting set now to storm the street in jubilation. We spoke earlier with our correspondent in Oyo State, who also confirmed that hundreds of APC, Accord Party supporters are also somewhere at the Accord Party Secretariat in Samonda in Ibadan, getting set to protest the result of the gubernatorial election released in Oyo State. Speaking with them a couple of minutes ago is the Accord Party candidate who was also making efforts to calm down some nerves. The Bring Back Our Girls group also, as we speak now, marched to the Ministry of Education in Abuja, demanding the rescue of the over 200 girls who were abducted exactly a year ago today. That wraps it on the 2015 elections this morning. We'll be back later as we keep you up to date with happenings around the country. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Stick around for the top of the hour news.
Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on Digit 360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions.